If we talk about the configuration of endpoint traffic policy enforcement, it comes under the enforcement section. So apart from the network enforcement, you have these three options. We either enforce it only for TCP UDP based on the IP address type, or all TCP UDP, or all traffic. As you would probably remember from the video demonstration, when we are talking about TCP UDP traffic, but based on IP, we are focused on, for example, if the GP client is connected and on that system, you have IPv4 and IPv6 both as a dual step interface. I mean, they are traffic, they are accepting connection. So in that case, if the tunnel is IPv4 type, the enforcement applies on IPv4 type and not on IPv6. Similarly, if the GP tunnel is configured with IPv6, then it applies on IPv6 interface and not on IPv4 interface. Um, that can be a requirement in certain environments where IPv4 is full protected by GP and IPv6 is used for only specific applications, and that needs to be allowed. And then you have the regular all TCP UDP traffic. So if that is selected, then it doesn't matter if the tunnel is IPv4 or IPv6. All the traffic of all the traffic is subject to that enforcement of endpoint traffic policy enforcement. And then the last option is for all traffic. When we say all traffic, we are not limited to TCP UDP. Even ICMP traffic would be subject to the traffic policy enforcement, except the exclusions that we talked about, the DHCP and the DNS. Now, there are some best practices on when should we use these combination, the enforcer, the direct local subnet access, and the traffic policy enforcement, and split tunnel. So this gives a good idea of what's the best practice, although this is just best practice. An organization can choose to do it differently, which is completely fine. For example, if the use case or if the requirement, high level requirement of the organization is to fully block or do not allow any outside connection and maximum level of protection, then all of the features should be turned on except split tunnel. The caveat here is that if the split tunnel is not allowed, it can, in some cases, cause high network congestion in the network. When I say congestion, let's say, for example, you're not blocking YouTube or say Netflix, for example. In that case, the users have to use GlobalProtect, and when they are connected to your network, and they're say streaming Netflix videos or YouTube videos, that is non-productive traffic, that is considered non-productive traffic for most of the organizations, and then that traffic is still passing through Prisma Access or your corporate firewall and using that bandwidth. So, but if the requirement is that all the traffic absolutely has to go through the firewall, then don't use split tunnel and send everything through the GP with these features on. Um, Another use case is that you're excluding the network clogging domain, which is basically, say, YouTube and Netflix, for example, but you're not allowing access to local LAN. So then here we are enabling all of the features. We have defined the domains under split tunnel, say Netflix and YouTube. And then we are also blocking incoming traffic via endpoint traffic policy enforcement. We are also blocking outbound traffic using enforcer, and then we are disabling local network access. Then another use case is we are allowing the network, the local access, and then everything over the tunnel is still allowed. So we are not using split tunnel here. Everything should go through the tunnel, which means, again, maximum security. But wherever the user is, we are still allowing their local user access, because we trust the user, or let's say the machines are always in corporate environment, and the local network is always trusted. So you're disabling the DLSA, which means you're allowing your local printer or your local network access, but then you're enforcing the use of GlobalProtect for network access, and you're also enforcing the endpoint traffic policy enforcement. So the incoming connections are still going through the tunnel. And then another one which is mostly used is you're excluding network logging domain. So all the streaming video sites, say YouTube and Netflix, they are subject to split tunnel. You do allow local network access, mostly for, let's say, printer access. And then you have specific domains which needs to be accessed through VPN, and then rest everything apart from the ones which are split tunnel, everything the GP. So then you can use the combination of some are turned on, some are not turned on, and then this can also be defined based on individual groups. You can have GlobalProtect app settings where you define different user groups as match criteria. For some users, you might want to allow them access based on their level of work or their requirement, and do not allow, say, split tunnel or endpoint traffic policy enforcement for others. Now, let's talk a little bit about debugging these. So when we are debugging the endpoint traffic policy enforcement, for Windows devices, there is no separate logging. So there's no separate log file that you would see as part of this feature. What we can do is when, let's say, a user complains about a specific scenario, a specific issue that they are not able to access something, or something is not working, and that happened after you enabled the traffic policy enforcement. The first thing you can do is go have the user generate the log bundle, the GlobalProtect log bundle. Then within the pan GPS log file, it would indicate if the feature has been enabled or no. If you turned on the feature on the portal, but on the user side, has that been updated or no? Let's say you turned on the feature on the portal settings, on the app settings, but if the user has not refreshed, and for example, by default, the refresh timer is 24 hours. So until the user refreshes or connects back to the portal after 24 hours, they would still not have that feature enabled. But if you need to check it for a specific user in the GP logs, we'll see based on the type of filtering that you've enabled, TCP, UDP, or all traffic. We can simply search for traffic enforcement and would see what type of option. In this one, we have TCP UDP with tunnel address type, so either IPv4 tunnel or IPv6 tunnel. And then we are blocking TCP and UDP traffic. On Mac devices, you actually do have a separate log file which logs these details, or essentially the traffic which is logged as part of the endpoint traffic policy enforcement. So under pan-next log, if, let's say, during the course of GlobalProtect connection, there are some domains or some connections which are blocked, which is unexpected, and that has happened, or it has been identified that this is happening after you enable endpoint traffic policy enforcement, and disabling that does fix the issue. So you do know that there is something with the traffic policy enforcement, but don't understand why. So yeah, once the best way here is again, have the user turn on the GP dump mode, reproduce the issue. So have the user connect and then try to access the same network or same application based on the user report. Note down the timing, and if possible, note down the IP addresses, the source IP, the destination IP from where this traffic is coming. And then once the GP logs are generated, you look at the logs between that time, between, say, it happened between 3 p.m. to 3:05. So look at the logs between that time. And then in the pan next log, you will see the activity related to the network extension and the enforcer. When I say enforcer, I'm talking about the endpoint traffic policy enforcement. So we would essentially see if the traffic was blocked because it was identified that it's coming it is originating, say, from physical adapter compared to, I mean, the expectation was that it should have generated from GP adapter, or it was a split tunnel traffic. So depending on the type of scenario, you would see some logs there. Now, for Windows, as we discussed, there is no separate log file. Um, we would see the enforcement decision in mostly in pan GPS logs, but there are some logs which are in pan GPA file as well. Essentially, you would need to see both of these logs to make a conclusion on what exactly is happening. Uh, but if there is a specific problem where there are some traffic which is blocked exactly because of the endpoint traffic policy enforcement, then just the GP logs might not be enough. So in that case, we'll need to use the Windows Microsoft, which will require an administrative privilege, and we will need to reproduce the issue and run the debug view software and then capture the kernel logs. So that will quickly show us at the application level what is happening, who is initiating connection. I mean, say if it is coming from outside or being generated from the machine's physical adapter or the GP adapter, and then generated, is it blocked or is it allowed? And then say if we know that endpoint traffic policy enforcement is blocking, so we will see a block, and then based on the configuration, we can determine further, is it expected behavior or unexpected behavior. Now, let's just do a recap of key takeaways that we have done. So specific to enforcement, the primary use case here is to block inbound connection coming from outside the tunnel. The expectation is that the GlobalProtect is always on. So the user is always connecting using GlobalProtect. Most of the time, whenever the machine is on, the tunnel is always there. And because the tunnel is always there, the organization's expectation is that all the traffic should flow through the tunnel so they can control it. They can have full visibility, and there should be no traffic coming in on a physical interface outside of the tunnel, because if it is coming from outside, uh, the the IT admin or the organization does not have the visibility, and that poses a security risk. And although the GP GlobalProtect itself does not have full temper protection, this feature provides a bit of temper protection on the routing table, not complete temper protection. So for that, the expectation is that uh, there are restrictions. Not all users would have admin access for any elevated privileges. The users need to work with their local IT team. In a nutshell, in terms of how it works, most of the organizations would use this to block the TCP UDP traffic, which is after the tunnel is established. And then if someone tries to modify the routing, then the driver is unloaded and the tunnel is immediately disconnected. So in case if someone is using this feature, or they have recently turned it on, and then they see sudden tunnel disconnections after certain certain actions from user, or and another admin is trying to do something else which might be causing the routing table to be modified, and and the GP is disconnected, note down the timing and then look at the pan GPS and pan GPA logs, and you would understand what's happening. and then that will help you understand if that is expected behavior or not expected behavior. Connection mode behavior, we already discussed that. The the feature only makes sense if you're using always on. If you're not, if you're allowing the user to be on demand, then the feature doesn't make too much of sense, because the user has the ability to just turn off the GP, and then they can communicate in inside, or the inbound and outbound connection can work. In terms of troubleshooting, again, for you can always use the pan next logs. It's do it in dump mode. Reproduce the IP addresses if possible, because there'll be a ton of logs at that within let's say 2 to 3 minutes of time frame if you're looking at. So if you have at least either source IP, destination IP, or port, that will help you to isolate and understand what exactly is happening, if the GlobalProtect is blocking or not blocking that, and then make a decision from there. For Windows, some of the logs are there in pan GPS and pan GPA. The traffic decisions would be in pan GPS, but if the requirement is to exactly identify when there is a problem that the enforcement endpoint traffic policy enforcement is suspected of, which is a admin privilege, and then look at the kernel logs. And then the next part is packet capture. So these logs, packet capture is always useful. Capture whenever troubleshooting policy enforcement, or you're troubleshooting any other type of issue, any other connection issue related to GlobalProtect. Whenever packet capture is done, let's say we are using Wireshark to capture packets on a system, always enable it on all the interfaces. When the GP is connected, make sure that you select all the interfaces, the physical interface, maybe there is a loopback interface, and the pan GP adapter. So you turn it on all the interfaces, reproduce the issue, and turn on the packet capture and then reproduce the issue. What that does is it gives you the complete visibility of incoming and outgoing traffic from all interfaces. So that tells you if the split tunnel is working or not working, your endpoint traffic policy enforcement is working or not working, which interface is generating the traffic. So you would see the source address from where the traffic is getting generated. So from that, you can deduce which interface is generating the traffic. Is it pan GP or is it the physical interface? And then make a decision on the troubleshooting next step from there. Right. So on second day, for the third session, we'll talk about split tunnel, multi VPN, and HIP profile.
Fantastic. All right. Yogesh, thank you very much for today. I really appreciate it. Ramsamy as well. Thank you very much for answering all the questions in the chat. We are sorry about a little bit of audio problems we did have with Yogesh's mic there. We'll try and get these problems all identified and taken care of before we head into day 3 next week. If there are specific items that people feel may have been missed, once you actually go back and view the recording, let us know. We will go ahead and then I'll work with Yogesh and get the audio fixed on those little sections. Again, the recording from today's event, I will get those recordings from, the recordings from today and yesterday's events. I'll get those up by Friday and this week. I've got another event, virtual event that I'm hosting on Thursday. I've got to prep for that. So worst case scenario, I should have your recordings up for Friday. My apologies for the wait. I'm one person. I can only do so much for everyone. So, looks like we've got all the questions taken care of in there. There might be one more, I think, that's being addressed at the moment. In the meantime, Yogesh, I will let you go ahead and get going. Thank you very much again for doing everything for today and for yesterday as well.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, everyone, for attending.